Speaker. Thank you, Edmunds, once again, to Professor Viktor Skrickij from Lithuania. And he's going to talk about mobility solutions in rural areas of Baltic Sea region, targeting carbon neutral environment. So, Viktor, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to start my presentation from this picture, where average annual population development is shown. So what does it mean? We can see how population every year changes. If color is red, it means that population is increasing. If it's gray, it's decreasing. And on the bottom of the picture, you can see the numbers. Yeah. So if you speak about Lithuania and Latvia, situation is not very good enough. Yeah, we can see a lot of gray color. It means that population is decreasing in rural areas. And why it is happening? Because still up to date, for example, in Latvia, about 45% of population still lives in rural areas. In Lithuania, it's about 55%. If you will compare to Eastern European countries, Western European countries as Germany, Belgium, we can see that values are changing from 15 to 20%. And in other words, density of population in our countries is quite low, and we have a lot of challenges when we are speaking about people mobility. And for comparison, why I say that population is low, that if population density would be similar in Lithuania as in Belgium, we would have a population about 20 millions. Right now, we have a little bit less than 3 millions. And so what is a problem statement? So as it was told previously by other speakers, transportation sector generates a lot of global CO2 emissions. In different literature sources, these values varies, but what is known for me, it's about from 22 to 25% of CO2 emissions. Second one, with changes in the population in rural areas, infrastructure renovation cost per capita will be more expensive. So people's salaries, living standards in rural areas are lower than the high cities. And for people, it's much more difficult to have green vehicles. Yeah, so a majority of people in Lithuania living in rural areas are driving quite old vehicles. And so we need to implement new achievements in connectivity and to ensure people mobility in these regions. We are performing one project, Interact project. It's called MARA, Mobility and Accessibility in Rural Areas. And here I want to present a few ideas of the projects which can impact mobility and make whole transportation more greener. So first of all, first attempt and first idea is integrated mobility plan for the area. Second is concept of car sharing in rural areas, taking into account electric vehicles and automated driving. And the last one, it's new business models for mobility in rural areas. So in the majority of the countries of Baltic Sea region, there are sustainable urban mobility plans developed for cities. For Lithuania, I think we got 16 such mobility plans. And it is an achievement, yeah, because we know the current situation and we know where we are going. What is the main problem? That main bullet points, main focus is going on urban mobility. And it is okay when we are speaking about larger cities, but when we are speaking about small cities, yeah, or rural areas, maybe not mobility inside the city is a main problem, but connectivity of these cities with another one. So our attempt was just to provide the idea that during the planning stage, we need to take the whole region into account and to think how it will be connected, how the city will be connected with another cities. And after that, we can make a comfortable mobility system and replace existing one where majority of share goes to privately owned cars. Here on this slide, you can see the researchers' review, of possible mobility solutions which can be adapted for rural mobility landscape. So we made a classification according to conventional solution and innovative solution. So here is how it's possible to to solve mobility issues. In conventional way, it's first of all, it's privately owned assets. It's maybe vehicles, privately owned vehicles, or micromobility solutions, such for example as bicycle. After that, it goes second block, it's public transport, and so after that, it's innovative solutions. They can be divided in three different columns. It's first of all flexible transport services, as a, for example, bus on demand. Second group is ride sharing, and the last one is asset sharing. Also, it's combining car sharing and shared mobility services. And I would like to speak about car sharing. So how car sharing can impact the pollution. So here you can see some aspects. So first of all, fewer cars on the road. So not all the people owning their own cars, but they just rent when they need. But it is so, as I mentioned previously, it can be possible if they got good connectivity solutions with another regions. And when you are renting vehicles, it will be, in the end, you will reduce the vehicle miles traveled, because right now, if you got your own, you sometimes go on unnecessary journeys, for example, to the shop or elsewhere, where you just can go buy food. Using car sharing options, it can be increase the usage of smaller and newer cars. As I said, for example, from statistical data, in Lithuania, average age of privately owned car is about 15 years. In car sharing, it's only a few years old cars, and another one that sharing companies increase usage of electric vehicles. So during our investigation in rural areas, we were investigating possibility of implementing car sharing services in rural areas and possibility implementing electric vehicles. So currently what we need to say is that in rural areas, there is no enough infrastructure. So we do not have enough charging stations. And currently what we can use, it's, for example, hybrid vehicles. And according to the research provided by one of the OEM manufacturers in Europe. So using a hybrid technology, we can decrease CO2 emissions up to 25%. If you are speaking about plug-in hybrids, it will be up to 50%. And electric vehicles can reduce the CO2 emissions up to 100%, but still we have particle emissions. Currently, in a current fleet, majority of the particle emissions we got from internal combustion engines and from diesel one. But in electric vehicle, we still got brakes, tires, where there is particle emissions. Of course, the level is decreased, but it's still there. Currently, we have another project where we're developing second generation electric vehicle. It uses in-wheel motors, but still, according to the normative documents, we need to have friction brakes on it, and still there is a little number, but particle emissions. After that, if we will implement the idea of electric vehicles, second stage would be automated driving, automated vehicles, but there we could change a little bit usage model, and it should be not the car, but maybe a bus on demand. It would be everything very good, but there are some reasons why companies are not going to rural areas currently. So what is the main problem? That existing business models are not profitable in areas where we got low people density. So from the literature, what we know that minimum population requirements where this business can start at about 100,000 people. During the pilot case in Lithuania, it was found that minimal number is 150,000. There are known companies who are working in cities with smaller population. For example, in Poland, there is a company which works in cities with population starting from 40,000, but it do not mean that it is economically profitable, but just at the moment, company increasing their market. Yeah, so they're like an Uber. It's not car sharing, but they also do not mainly do not focus on profitability, but increase of their market. And according to our investigation during our meeting with companies, municipalities, we found possible solutions, what we can do to car sharing companies come to rural areas. They, first of all, maybe most simple solution would be just to subsidize this transport mode as it's done for public transport and railway transport. Second possibility is just to define an additional fee for service user. Currently, we can use car sharing to drive to rural areas, but we will need to pay for all the time that we are using vehicle, or even if we are not. So the idea would be that we can travel where we want, but we can leave the vehicle, and we will get some additional penalty for this, because for company it's costs to drive this vehicle back. And the last idea is to provide access to the platform for peer-to-peer service when people is where vehicle are rented by people or small renting companies. And here was two possibilities: just to develop platform or rent some solution, because on the market there are software available that you just using platform, you do not need to develop your own. Or second one, just to car sharing company provide acceptance to their platform by another users. And this was not a very good solution, because after some discussion, company can see here risks, because if vehicle will be in a bad technical condition, if some accidents will appear, yeah, nobody will speak about that person who rented a vehicle, but everybody will look on the company, and they can see this risk. And according to the company, they can give this access, for example, for micromobility solution as bicycle and so on, where injuries for the people or mortality, possibility of mortality is much more less. So, and one more important aspect, we need to understand what is the people acceptance. Yeah, we can develop a lot of ideas, speak with companies, municipalities, but if people will not use it, it will be not worth nothing. So we provided investigation, and what is interesting that during the COVID pandemic, there are a lot of people who are saying that car sharing will die, yeah? That people will want to have their own cars, and nobody want to use sharing mobility solutions. So we took investigation from 2019 to 2020, and on this slide, I put results from questionnaires we had in 2020 during the pandemic. So you can still see that more than 30% of population would, in rural areas, would use car sharing if such possibility, if they would have such possibility, and more than 50% of them would use bike sharing, maybe electric bike sharing and scooter sharing. So it's still popular in rural areas. And here we were asking of residents and tourists. In initial investigation, we were interested in foreign tourists, but however, to the pandemic, there were no too much tourists from foreign, so we just asked national ones. And the last one is not our development, but we were using for business model development. So what is important? So decide if we are speaking about some kind of platform, how we will create value, how we will deliver it, and how we will capture the value. Only after all these three stages, when we define our steps, we can start providing new solutions. And here is some conclusions, how we understand. So first of all, before starting doing something, we need to think, will it work, and to provide initial investigation. So our idea would be to develop a flexible transport system. And when we are speaking about mobility, we need to take into account connectivity to make system comfortable for users, user-friendly, yeah, just they could have different alternative to privately owned cars. And only after that, we need to find how to make it easy to use this service. So we think that new business model need to be developed, where central part will be the platform, And this platform should provide passengers flexibility in choosing transport mode, including conventional solutions, as for example, different trains for connection between the cities in areas and rural areas, sharing services, micromobility solutions, public transport demand. Also in this platform, if it will be realized through the app, it should be a different additional information about the times, roads, and etc. And the main focus should be that we should focus not on infrastructure, not on transport, not on platform, but solutions should be person-oriented. And it is primarily that it should be easy to use. And maybe not to this, my presentation, but what we can see that digitalization is becoming a central figure for developing new mobility solutions. So we need to develop what was said previously, that we need people working in this field with software engineers. Yeah, so we need to put main focus on digitalization. So from my side, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Viktor. I think it was a very interesting presentation in terms of new mobility solutions and how to really go about it in the Baltic Sea region. Due to the time limits, I have to say that as previously that we won't have a chance to take any questions because we have time for a break now, but we will have the possibility to take questions further on when we will move to the panel discussion, as I mentioned already before.